Leadership is this magical topic, and so we're not the first ones to explore it, clearly. There are various leadership theories trying to explain how we can learn to become a leader or how we can identify good and great leaders. Over time, since let's say the 1800s to the early 1900s, there was this influence in terms of leadership theorizing of what we can call the great man theories, great human theories, the heroes, the saints. And those major assumptions were based on what we could call Darwinist principles in a sort of misunderstood manner, but in a way that leaders are born, not made. Leaders have natural abilities of power and influence over anybody else, so we really just have nothing that we can do about becoming leaders. We're just either born to be it or not, and then there's nothing that we can do to learn it. Scientific research has not proved that leadership is based on any type of hereditary factor. Leadership was believed to exist only in a few elite individuals, and if you think about it, this is pretty disempowering overall, especially if as a species we're facing lots of problems as we are right now, where in fact it's assumed that these are best solved with many people being involved and engaged. In the early 19th century, we then moved in our understanding away from the great born hero and leader to something that was sort of trait-based. A trait-based understanding meant that a leader has superior endowed qualities, and certain individuals possess a natural ability in a similar way as in the great man theories, but those are based on traits which differentiate them from followers. So there are certain traits that we can make out. It's not just the person based, but anybody that has these traits can or should become a leader according to these assumptions. Of course, the criticism is that the situation is not considered in this approach at all. Many traits are too obscure to be discovered, measured, or observed. Studies have not adequately linked any traits with leadership effectiveness in particular. And most trait studies omit leadership behaviors, follower motivations as mediating variables, so it's a bit messy in a way. Then in the 50s and 60s, we adjusted that understanding and we looked at behavioral understandings of leadership, and that assumes that there is potentially one best behavior, one best way to lead, be it command and control, be it engagement, leading by example, any of those behaviors. And so in some way, leaders who express high concern for both people and production or consideration and structure will be effective. One of these examples would then need to be truer than others, because those behaviors are more effective than others. Of course, that needs to be criticized because different situations require different kind of processes, different kind of behaviors. Maybe leading in a situation of emergency, there's one type of behavior, whereas leading in other types of situations that are not necessarily emergency-based might require something different. So therefore, studies fail to identify situations where specific types of leadership behaviors are relevant consistently. That then got us to a more refined understanding in terms of the importance of the situation. The contingency theory approaches, suggesting that there are leaders that act differently depending on the situation, and the situation determines who actually will emerge as a leader. So it's not that the person is by design a leader, but that the situation together with the person will create the possibility for leadership. So different leadership behaviors are required for different situations. The criticism here is that most contingency theories are ambiguous, making it very difficult to formulate specific, testable propositions, so any kind of behavior could be seen as relevant for good leadership, and it's very difficult to test those theories and measure any kind of behavior given certain situations. Then we have a theory that I in some way alluded to in the beginning, is that seeing it as leadership as influence. It's influence in a social exchange process, and that research to sort of understand that kind of influence is needed. We see that that may be a valuable way of looking at leadership, but we can't really yet understand how that influence is occurring in different ways. Then an approach called reciprocal is more modern, is basically an understanding that leadership is a process, and not just any kind of process, but a relational process in which a leader, quote unquote, is engaging with followers, and it's a shared process. And therefore the emphasis is not only on leadership, but on followership, and trying to understand how people interact in a way that they get certain results accomplished. Again, there's a little less of research in this field. Clarifications are needed on similarities and differences between types of leadership. Charismatic type of leadership, transformational type of leadership. And the process of collaboration, change, empowerment are difficult to achieve and measure. All that to be said, that leadership is a pretty big field, an important field, one that has been tried to be understood in various ways, and we may be coming closer to understanding it. My proposition is, as I said before, potentially seeing leadership as an opportunity to be more human, to be fulfilling these 4 drives in balance, and also allow that to occur with others. In that sense, that could be an act of leadership, as was suggested before. Anyhow, it is open for definition, just to show you that there are very many people engaged with different kinds of perspectives in this field.